The slap echoed through the ICU like a gunshot. Claire Donovan didn't fall, just staggered back half a step, one hand flying instinctively to shield the curve of her pregnant belly, the other still gripping the patient chart. Blood trickled from her split lip. Around her, nurses froze. Doctors looked away. The billionaire who'd just struck her, Marcus Caldwell, tech magnate, untouchable, smiled like he'd won something. What he didn't know was simple. The quiet blonde nurse bleeding in front of him had spent 6 years as an Army combat medic in places where violence wasn't theater. She'd stitched soldiers under mortar fire, made life and death calls in seconds, earned commendations she never spoke about. She'd buried that version of herself when she came home, chose scrubs over fatigues, chose peace. Marcus Caldwell had just made her reconsider. If you want to see how far justice can reach when pushed far enough, stay with me until the end. Drop a like, leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The emergency department at Riverside Memorial Hospital in Creston Falls ran on controlled chaos. Claire had learned that in her first week. It was a ballet of trauma and triage, a place where every second mattered and nobody had time for ego. She liked it that way. Clean, purposeful. No room for the past to creep in. Tonight felt different. She noticed it the moment Marcus Caldwell walked through the automatic doors. Not in a wheelchair, not on a gurney, but striding like he owned the tile beneath his Italian loafers. Expensive suit. Bluetooth earpiece still blinking. 2 assistants flanking him like Secret Service. Claire was restocking the crash cart when he blew past the triage desk without stopping. "Sir." The intake nurse stood up. "Sir, you need to check in. I don't need to do anything." His voice carried that particular tone wealth bought, boredom mixed with certainty. "Which way to ICU?" Claire straightened, one hand on her lower back where the baby had been kicking all shift. 8 months pregnant and still pulling 12-hour rotations because rent in Creston Falls didn't care about maternity leave. She watched the scene unfold with the clinical detachment she'd perfected. Assess, categorize, decide. The intake nurse looked ready to cry. Young, maybe 6 months out of school. Claire stepped forward. "Can I help you?" Marcus turned. His eyes did that thing rich men's eyes always did. Swept over her scrubs, her belly, her face, calculated her worth in half a second, and found it lacking. "I see you," he repeated. "My attorney had a heart attack. I need to see him. We can get you visitor information once you sign in." "I'm not a visitor." He said it like the word tasted bad. "Edmund Price is my personal counsel, $1 million retainer. I need 5 minutes to get documents signed before he's too drugged up to hold a pen." The intake nurse looked at Claire. Claire looked at the man who thought $1 million retainer bought him the right to treat a hospital like his office. "Mr. Price is in critical condition," Claire said. Voice calm. Even. The same tone she'd used telling soldiers they were going to be fine when they absolutely weren't. "He's not taking visitors right now." "Then you'll make an exception." "I won't." Something shifted in his expression. Not anger yet. Curiosity. Like he'd discovered a new species of insect. "Do you know who I am?" "No." A lie. Everyone in Creston Falls knew Marcus Caldwell. His company, Vision Tech Industries, had its logo on half the buildings downtown. The man had appeared on magazine covers, keynote speeches, TED Talks about disruption and innovation. His net worth had a B at the end. "I employ 4,000 people in this city," he said slowly. "I donate to this hospital. That wing," he pointed toward the new cardiac center, "has my name on it." "That's generous." Claire kept her voice level. "The ICU is still closed to non-family. Get me your supervisor. My supervisor will tell you the same thing." His jaw tightened. The assistants behind him shifted weight, uncertain. One of them, a woman in a blazer that probably cost more than Claire's car, leaned forward. "Mr. Caldwell, maybe we should—" "Be quiet, Jessica." He didn't look at her. Eyes locked on Claire. "What's your name?" "Claire Donovan." "Well, Claire Donovan, I'm going to remember that." Okay. The single word seemed to catch him off guard. No apology, no fear, just acknowledgement. He smiled, not warmth, calculation. You're making a mistake. Maybe. Claire gestured toward the waiting area. There are chairs. Coffee machine's broken, but the vending machine works. Someone will update you when Mr. Price's condition changes. For a moment, she thought he might actually listen. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, looked back at her with something new in his eyes. Not curiosity anymore. Contempt. Move. Sir, I said move. He stepped forward, not quite touching her, but close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. The baby shifted inside her, a rolling pressure against her ribs. Claire didn't move. Behind the desk, she heard someone pick up a phone. Security, probably. Good. This was escalating in a direction she recognized, had seen 100 times in different contexts. Men who thought power meant the rules bent around them. Last chance, Marcus said quietly. For you or for me? His hand moved fast, grabbed her shoulder, tried to push her aside like a door that wouldn't open. Claire's training kicked in before thought did. She shifted her weight, redirected the force, stepped back to maintain balance. His hand slipped off. The assistants gasped. Marcus stared at his empty hand like it had betrayed him. Don't touch me, Claire said. Still calm, still even. But something else underneath now, something that had been sleeping a long time and didn't appreciate being woken up. You just assaulted me. His voice rose, performative, playing to an audience. Everyone saw that. She attacked me. I stepped back when you grabbed me. Lying. You think you can put your hands on me? You're nobody. You're a nurse. The way he said it, like the word meant servant, meant less than. Claire felt something cold settle in her chest. The same feeling she used to get right before the mortars started falling. That clarity that came with accepting you might not walk away from this. Sir, I need you to leave the emergency department. Her voice stayed level even as her heart rate climbed. Security is on their way. Security works for the hospital. The hospital takes my money. He stepped closer again. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I'm dealing with someone who needs to step back. Or what? The question hung there. Claire thought about the answer, about the version of herself that could have put him on the ground in 3 seconds, pregnant or not, because some reflexes didn't fade. About the version that had learned to swallow anger and keep moving because that's what coming home meant. She chose the second version. Or you'll be escorted out, she said quietly, and you won't see Mr. Price tonight. His face flushed. Real anger now, not performance. You think you're brave? His voice dropped to something meant to sound dangerous. You think standing there with your belly out makes you untouchable? I will destroy you. I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will. The slap came without warning. Open palm across her face, hard enough that her head snapped sideways, hard enough that she tasted copper. The world tilted. Her hand flew to her stomach, protective instinct older than thought, and her other hand caught the edge of the nurse's station to keep from falling. Silence crashed down like a wave. Claire straightened slowly, touched her lip. Her fingers came away red. Around her, the emergency department had frozen. 10 people watching. Doctors. Nurses. Patients in waiting room chairs. All of them staring. Nobody moved. Marcus flexed his hand like it hurt. Looked at her with something almost curious in his expression, testing to see what she'd do. Claire met his eyes and saw what she needed to know. This wasn't impulse. This was demonstration. He'd hit her because he could, because he wanted everyone watching to understand the hierarchy. She'd been hit before, in training, in deployment, once by a patient so deep in psychosis he didn't know where he was. This was different. This was a man who knew exactly what he was doing. Security, she said quietly. Blood on her lip. Now. 2 security guards rounded the corner. Hospital rent-a-cops who looked like they wished they were anywhere else. The older one, Barry, had grandkids, had shown Claire pictures. He took in the scene and his face went carefully blank. Mr. Caldwell, he said, voice strained, I need to ask you to come with me. This woman attacked me. Marcus gestured at Claire like she was evidence. I want her arrested. I want her fired. Sir, we have cameras. Barry's voice stayed professional, but something underneath it had gone hard. I need you to leave the emergency department. Do you know who I am? Yes, sir. I still need you to leave." For a moment, Claire thought it might actually work. Then Marcus smiled, that same calculated expression from before. "I'll leave," he said, "after I file a formal complaint against her." He pointed at Claire. "Assault, negligence, reckless endangerment, and I want to speak to whoever runs this hospital." "That would be Dr. Pearson," Barry said. "I can arrange—" "Get him down here, now!" Barry looked at Claire. She touched her lip again, felt the swelling starting, thought about the baby moving inside her and the shift she still had 6 hours left on and the rent that was due in 3 days. "It's fine," she said. "Get Dr. Pearson." Dr. Richard Pearson arrived 20 minutes later looking like a man who'd been woken from sleep but had taken time to put on a tie. Hospital administrator. Former surgeon who'd traded scalpels for spreadsheets and donor meetings. Claire had met him twice, once during orientation, once at a hospital fundraiser she'd been required to attend. He shook Marcus Caldwell's hand first. That told Claire everything she needed to know. They moved to a conference room. Claire, Dr. Pearson, Marcus, his 2 assistants, and Barry the security guard who'd been asked to provide a statement. The room smelled like stale coffee and the lingering anxiety of budget meetings. Claire sat with her hands folded over her belly, feeling the baby kick like it could sense her elevated heart rate. Dr. Pearson listened to Marcus's version first. It was a work of fiction. Claire had aggressively confronted him, had physically blocked his path, had made threatening statements when he'd simply asked for directions. The slap became self-defense, a necessary response to aggression. The assistants nodded along like backup singers. When it was Claire's turn, she stated facts, timestamps, exact quotes, the physical contact he'd initiated, the strike that followed. Dr. Pearson wrote notes. His pen made soft, scratching sounds. "We have security footage," Claire added. "Cameras cover the entire intake area." "Yes." Dr. Pearson looked up, smiled. Not warmth, management. "We'll review that, of course, but Mr. Caldwell raises valid concerns about the incident. The incident where he hit me. The alleged physical contact that occurred during a confrontation you initiated." Claire felt something shift in her chest, a door closing. "I initiated by enforcing hospital policy. Policy that could have been explained more diplomatically." Dr. Pearson set down his pen, folded his hands. "Ms. Donovan, you've been with us for 8 months? 9. And in that time, have you received any customer service training?" Customer service. He'd called enforcing ICU restrictions customer service. "I've received training on hospital protocols," Claire said carefully, "including visitor management during critical care situations. But not de-escalation training. I de-escalated. He escalated." Marcus leaned back in his chair, one ankle crossed over his knee, watching the show he'd paid for. Dr. Pearson sighed, the sound of a man doing something difficult but necessary. "Ms. Donovan, I think it's best if you take some time off. Paid administrative leave while we investigate this incident. Given your, condition." He gestured vaguely at her stomach. "It might be better for everyone if you weren't working right now anyway. I'm cleared to work until week 36. Nevertheless." He stood up, meeting over. "We'll be in touch about next steps." Claire looked at Barry. The security guard wouldn't meet her eyes. She looked at the assistants. They were already checking their phones. She looked at Marcus Caldwell. He smiled at her, slow, satisfied. "Should have moved," he said quietly. Claire cleaned out her locker at 2 in the morning. The hospital insisted on escort, liability, they said, so Barry walked her to the staff area and waited while she pulled out her spare shoes, her jacket, the framed photo of her younger brother in his dress blues. "This is wrong," Barry said. "What happened to you? What he did? That's not okay." "I know." "You should file charges, police report, something." "Against Marcus Caldwell?" Claire closed her locker. "In Creston Falls?" Barry's silence was answer enough. They walked through empty corridors, their footsteps echoing off tile. At the employee exit, Barry held the door. "For what it's worth, Ian," he said, "you did the right thing. Doesn't feel like it. Never does." Claire stepped into the parking lot, late October air, cold enough to sting. Her car sat under a broken streetlight 3 rows back, a Honda with 200,000 miles and a check engine light she couldn't afford to fix. She drove home on autopilot, muscle memory navigating streets she'd learned in the 9 months since moving to Creston Falls. Small city. Big enough for a hospital. Small enough that everyone knew who mattered. Her apartment was in a complex on the eastern edge, where rent was cheap because the neighborhood wasn't. Third-floor walk-up. No elevator. She'd stopped counting the stairs. Inside, she locked the door, set down her bag, stood in the dark kitchen and let herself feel it. Not the slap. Not the humiliation. The calculus. She had $4,000 in savings. Rent was $1,200. Health insurance through the hospital would terminate in 30 days unless she paid COBRA, $600 a month. The baby was due in 6 weeks. Hospital delivery without insurance, $15,000 minimum. She'd been doing math in her head since Dr. Pearson had used the word investigation. The numbers didn't work. They'd never worked, but she'd been managing. Balancing precariously. Marcus Caldwell had just kicked the foundation out. Claire walked to her bedroom, opened the closet, pushed aside the boxes she hadn't unpacked yet. The safe was small, fireproof, bolted to the wall behind a panel she'd installed herself. Inside, her discharge papers. Her VA card. A citation for valor she'd never framed. And a phone. Not her regular phone. A satellite unit, military grade, encrypted. She'd been issued it 8 years ago and told to keep it charged, just in case. She'd charged it once a month like clockwork. Never turned it on. Claire sat on her bed, feeling the baby kick, feeling the split in her lip throb, feeling the weight of choices she'd thought she'd left behind. The phone powered up with a soft chime. No contacts saved. She didn't need any. There was only one number that mattered. Her finger hovered over the keypad. This wasn't a decision you unmade. This was opening a door that didn't close again. She'd walked away from this world deliberately, carefully, because she'd wanted something different, something clean. But clean didn't work when people like Marcus Caldwell existed, when money bought immunity, when doing the right thing got you fired and bleeding and counting your last $4,000 against an impossible future. The baby kicked again, hard enough to hurt. Claire dialed. It rang twice. Confirm identity. The voice was automated, flat. Donovan, Claire. Service number 2741986. A pause. Routing. Verification. Then a different voice. Human. Male. Calm in a way that suggested nothing surprised him anymore. Sparrow. The old call sign. Nobody had used it in 6 years. We were wondering if you'd ever call. I didn't want to. Nobody ever does. A pause. What happened? Claire touched her lip, felt the dried blood. I need help, she said. The words felt like surrender, like admission, like failure. Location? Creston Falls, Riverside Memorial. Situation? She told him. Short version. Facts only. Marcus Caldwell. The slap. The firing. The math that didn't work. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, silence stretched for 5 seconds. Caldwell, he said finally. Marcus Caldwell. Vision Tech Industries. You know him? Of him. He's flagged in 3 databases. Financial Crimes Division has a file. So does Counterintelligence. Another pause. He just made a mistake. What kind of mistake? The terminal kind. His voice hadn't changed, still calm, still even. You laid low for 6 years, kept your head down. We respected that. But when he touched you, he crossed a line he didn't know existed. I don't want revenge, Claire said. I just want... We know what you want. Papers rustling, keys clicking. Give us 12 hours. Don't go anywhere. Don't contact anyone, especially not Caldwell. I won't. Claire. He used her real name, first time in the conversation. You're one of ours. That doesn't expire. We should have checked on you sooner. I didn't need checking on. You do now. A pause. The baby. How far along? 34 weeks. Father in the picture? No. Family? Brother, Texas. Army, active duty. We'll notify him. Keep him updated. You focus on staying safe. What are you going to do? Our job. He said it like it was simple. Caldwell thinks money makes him untouchable. We're going to teach him about different kinds of power. The line clicked off. Claire sat in the dark, phone still warm in her hand, feeling the baby settle against her ribs. She'd made the call, opened the door. Now she had to live with what came through it. Damn. Morning arrived gray and cold. Claire woke to 17 missed calls, all from numbers she didn't recognize. Her regular phone had been blowing up since 5 a.m. She ignored them, made coffee, tried to eat toast, but her stomach rebelled. The news broke at 7:30. She saw it on her phone first. Nurse attacks tech billionaire at local hospital. The article was already viral. Marcus Caldwell had done interviews. Security footage, edited, she noted, showed her blocking his path. The slap wasn't visible, just her stumbling backward. Comments poured in. Half called her a hero. Half called her a liar trying to get a payout. Nobody had the full story. Nobody would. By 9 a.m., her landlord texted, "Need to talk about lease situation, call me." By 10 a.m., her bank account was frozen. No explanation, just a notice that suspicious activity required investigation. By 11 a.m., a process server knocked on her door. Lawsuit, Marcus Caldwell versus Claire Donovan. Assault, defamation, emotional distress, seeking damages of $5 million. The papers felt heavy in her hands. Expensive paper, embossed letterhead, $5 million. She couldn't afford a lawyer to read the lawsuit, let alone fight it. Claire sat at her kitchen table, legal papers spread in front of her, phone silent now, waiting for the 12 hours to pass. Outside, clouds gathered, rain coming. She thought about her brother, wondered if they'd actually contact him, or if that was just something people said. She thought about Marcus Caldwell, wondered if he was celebrating. She thought about the phone call, the voice that had said 12 hours like it was certain. The baby kicked, strong, persistent, ready for a world Claire wasn't sure she could protect her from. Her phone buzzed. Text from a number with no caller ID. Stay inside, don't answer the door. 6 hours. Claire read it twice, deleted it. The phone buzzed again immediately. We see the lawsuit. We see the account freeze. We see the media coverage. None of it matters. 6 hours. She wanted to believe it, wanted to think that somewhere machinery was turning, that the call had mattered, that justice existed for people who couldn't buy it. But she'd spent 6 years learning to trust only what she could see, touch, verify. And right now, all she could see were legal papers demanding $5 million and a bank account she couldn't access, and a city that had already decided she was the villain. Rain started, soft at first, then harder. Claire watched water stream down her window and waited for something to change. 6 hours, then 5, then 4. Her phone stayed silent. The apartment stayed quiet. The world outside continued like nothing had shifted. But somewhere, in offices she'd never see, through channels she'd never know, the people who remembered Sparrow were moving, and Marcus Caldwell was about to learn that some debts got collected in ways money couldn't stop. The 4 hours became 3, then 2, and Claire's apartment felt smaller with each passing minute. She tried to distract herself, folding laundry she'd already folded, reorganizing the sparse nursery she'd set up in the corner of her bedroom, checking her phone every 30 seconds, even though she knew there'd be nothing. At hour 1, her regular phone rang. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. The message was from a journalist at the Creston Falls Tribune offering her a chance to tell her side of the story for $2,500. Her side. Like truth was something you purchased by the word. She deleted it. 30 minutes left, her phone buzzed with a news alert. Caldwell Enterprises stock hits record. High amid controversy. The article praised Marcus for his transparency in addressing the unfortunate incident at Riverside Memorial. Investors saw it as proof of strong leadership. His company's value had jumped 4% overnight. He was winning, publicly, financially, completely. Claire sat on her couch, hands on her belly, and wondered if she'd been a fool to make that call. 6 years she'd been gone from that world. Maybe they'd forgotten her. Maybe the voice on the phone had been a courtesy, nothing more. Acknowledgement without action. The baby shifted, rolling against her ribs like it was trying to find a more comfortable position in the shrinking space. 6 weeks. That's all she had left before this stopped being theoretical and became a tiny human she had to keep alive on savings that wouldn't last 2 months. Her phone buzzed. The encrypted one, still sitting on her coffee table. Text, "Go to your window." Claire pushed herself up, walked to the rain-streaked glass. 3 floors down, the parking lot looked the same as always. Her beaten Honda, a few other resident cars, puddles reflecting gray sky. Then she saw it. Black SUV, tinted windows, parked in a visitor spot with the engine running. It hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. She'd checked. As she watched, a second vehicle pulled in. Same make, same color. Military precision in the way it positioned itself. Her phone buzzed again. "When you're ready, no rush." Claire grabbed her jacket, her keys, the papers from the lawsuit because something told her she'd need them. She took the stairs slowly, one hand on the railing, the other supporting her belly. Her body felt heavier than usual, like the baby had shifted lower overnight. The rain had softened to mist by the time she pushed through the exterior door. The first SUV's passenger window rolled down. A woman sat in the driver's seat, mid-40s, dark hair pulled back, eyes that tracked movement like a career of threat assessment had made it automatic. She wore civilian clothes, but carried herself like someone who'd spent time in uniform. "Miss Donovan?" Not a question. "I'm Rivera. We spoke on the phone." "You're a woman." The words came out before Claire could stop them. Rivera smiled. "You were expecting someone else?" The voice was voice modulation, standard protocol for initial contact. She gestured to the passenger seat. "Mind if we talk inside? Rain's not great for electronics." Claire climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and something else. Gun oil, maybe. The kind of smell that triggered memories she'd worked hard to bury. Rivera handed her a tablet. "Before we go further, I need you to look at something." The screen showed a file. Marcus Caldwell's file. Claire scrolled through pages of financial records, corporate filings, emails. Highlighted sections jumped out. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, shell corporations in Delaware, wire transfers that didn't match reported income. "We've been watching him for 18 months, Rivera said. Financial crimes, tax evasion, some indications of money laundering through his tech acquisitions. Nothing concrete enough for federal prosecutors to move on. Until now. Until he put his hands on a decorated combat medic in front of cameras." Rivera took the tablet back. "You gave us cause. Everything else is leverage we've been building." Claire leaned back against the seat. "So this isn't about me. It's absolutely about you." Rivera's voice sharpened. "He hit you. He used his money to bury you. That's personal, but the way we're going to handle it involves resources you couldn't access on your own." "What kind of resources?" "The kind that make men like Caldwell disappear without anyone asking questions." Rivera paused. "But that's not what you want, is it?" "No." "Good. Because we don't operate that way anymore." She shifted in her seat, facing Claire directly. "You called us for help. We're going to help. But I need you to understand what that means. This isn't a rescue. This is a response. When we move, everything changes. Your life, his life, the entire landscape of Creston Falls. You ready for that?" Claire thought about the lawsuit, the frozen account, the news stories painting her as either a victim or a liar. What's the alternative? You don't call us. You get a public defender who's overworked and underpaid. You fight the lawsuit for 3 years and lose because he can afford better lawyers. You declare bankruptcy. You move somewhere else and start over with a newborn and a record of assault that follows you everywhere. Rivera said it without inflection, just facts. "That's the alternative." "Then I'm ready." "You sure? Because once we start, you can't change your mind. You can't call it off. You can't decide you want to handle it yourself." "I'm sure." Rivera studied her for a long moment. Whatever she was looking for, she must have found it, because she nodded once and pulled out her phone. "Martinez, green light, full package." She hung up and looked at Claire. "It's going to move fast now. Stay available. Don't talk to media. Don't talk to lawyers, his or otherwise. Don't post anything online. Don't tell anyone about this conversation. What about the hospital? They want me to come in for a follow-up interview. They'll cancel it. Rivera said it with the certainty of someone who'd already seen the future. By tomorrow morning, Riverside Memorial is going to have much bigger problems than an administrative review. What are you going to do? Our job. The same words from the phone call. First step is financial pressure. His accounts are already flagged with the IRS. We're just going to make sure they look closer. Second step is legal exposure. Documents that suddenly become available to federal prosecutors. Third step is social collapse. The people who protect him stop returning calls. That's it? That's phase 1. Rivera started the engine. Phase 2 depends on how he reacts. Men like Caldwell usually make it worse for themselves. They're used to buying solutions. When money stops working, they panic. Claire thought about the smile Marcus had given her in that conference room. The satisfaction in his voice when he'd said, "Should have moved." He'll fight back. Let him. Rivera pulled out of the parking spot. Fighting back requires resources. We're about to take those away. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Rain picked up again, drumming on the roof. Claire watched the city pass by, familiar streets that suddenly felt like foreign territory. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said finally. "Sure." "Why? I mean, I get that he committed crimes, but you said you've been watching him for 18 months. Why move now? Why for me?" Rivera was quiet for a block. When she spoke, her voice had softened slightly. "You know how many people we've recruited over the years who had your skill set, your scores, your performance record?" She glanced at Claire. 12. In 20 years. 12 people who could make the calls you made under fire, who could keep moving when everything was falling apart. You were one of the best we ever had. I left. You earned the right to leave. That's the deal. Serve your time, go home, live your life. Rivera turned onto a highway on-ramp. But when someone like Caldwell puts you in the hospital's security footage with blood on your face, that's not just assault. That's attacking someone under our protection. We don't forget our people, even the ones who left. Claire felt something crack in her chest. She'd spent 6 years convinced she was alone, that walking away had meant severing every connection. The idea that someone had been watching, remembering, waiting for a reason to act. "Thank you," she managed. "Don't thank me yet." Rivera's voice hardened again. "This gets ugly before it gets better. Stay strong. Trust the process." She pulled over at a corner 2 blocks from Claire's apartment. "Walk from here. You'll get a call in about an hour. Answer it. After that, wait." Claire climbed out. The mist had turned back to rain, cold enough to sting. She watched the SUV pull away, then walked home slowly, feeling the weight of something shifting beneath her feet. Back in her apartment, she changed into dry clothes and made tea she didn't drink. The encrypted phone sat silent on the table. Her regular phone kept buzzing, more journalists, more unknown numbers. She ignored them all. 53 minutes after Rivera dropped her off, the encrypted phone rang. "This is Special Agent Cortez, FBI Financial Crimes Division." The voice was crisp, professional. "Am I speaking with Claire Donovan?" "Yes." "Ms. Donovan, I'm calling to inform you that we've opened an investigation into Marcus Caldwell and Vision Tech Industries based on evidence of tax fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. As part of this investigation, we'd like to interview you regarding the incident at Riverside Memorial Hospital." Claire's hand tightened on the phone. "Interview me?" "Your account of Mr. Caldwell's behavior may be relevant to establishing a pattern of conduct. The interview would be voluntary, recorded, and used as part of our case file." A pause. "I understand you're currently involved in a civil suit filed by Mr. Caldwell. I want to be clear that your cooperation with our investigation is entirely separate from that matter and cannot be used against you in civil proceedings." "When?" "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Federal Building downtown. Bring any documentation you have, medical records from the incident, employment records, any communications with hospital administration." Cortez's voice softened slightly. "Ms. Donovan, I've reviewed the security footage, all of it, not just what made the news. You have nothing to worry about regarding criminal charges." What about the lawsuit? That's civil. We can't touch it directly. But between you and me, by the time our investigation concludes, Mr. Caldwell is going to have much bigger expenses than a lawsuit he can't win. The call ended. Claire sat staring at her phone. FBI, federal investigation. This was real. This was happening. Her regular phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. This is Dr. Pearson. We need to reschedule your administrative review. We'll contact you next week with new date. No explanation, no apology. Just a postponement. Claire smiled. First time in 24 hours. Rivera had been right. Things were moving fast. She spent the rest of the evening preparing for the FBI interview, gathering papers, writing down everything she could remember about the incident in chronological order, pulling her medical records from the staff clinic where they documented the split lip and bruising. At 9 p.m., her regular phone rang. Her brother's number. Danny? Claire, what the hell is going on? His voice carried that particular mix of concern and anger that only family could manage. I got a call today from some guy saying you were in trouble. Something about a hospital and an assault charge, and are you okay? I'm fine. You're not fine. Some military contact number called me and said to check on you. They don't make those calls unless something's seriously wrong. Claire closed her eyes. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. So she did. Short version, the incident, the slap, the firing, the lawsuit. Danny listened without interrupting, which meant he was furious. He only got quiet when he was furious. Give me a name, he said when she finished. Danny? Claire, give me a name. I've got leave coming. I can be in Creston Falls in 8 hours. You can't. The hell I can't. He hit you. He hit my pregnant sister. You think I'm going to sit here and... It's being handled. Silence. Then, what does that mean? It means I made a call. The kind of call I was told to make if I ever needed help. She heard him processing that. People are moving. Federal people. It's being handled. You sure? Yeah. Because if you're not, if this is you trying to protect me from doing something stupid, I'm sure, Danny. I promise. He was quiet for a moment. You really okay? Not just the legal stuff. You and the baby. We're okay, scared, tired, but okay. I can still come out there, take some leave, help you get ready for, I know, and I might take you up on that in a few weeks. But right now I need to see this through. Call me if that changes. I will. After they hung up, Claire felt the exhaustion hit all at once. She'd been running on adrenaline for 24 hours. Now it drained away, leaving her hollow. She crawled into bed at 10 p.m. and fell asleep still wearing her clothes. The next morning arrived bright and cold. Claire dressed carefully, maternity pants, a simple blouse, her one blazer that still fit. Professional, credible. She pulled her hair back and covered the bruise on her jaw with makeup. The federal building sat downtown, all glass and concrete and American flags. Claire showed ID at security, went through the metal detector, took the elevator to the 7th floor. Agent Cortez met her in the lobby. Younger than Rivera, maybe 35, Latino, wearing a suit that looked government-issued. He shook her hand and led her to an interview room that smelled like coffee and anxiety. The interview lasted 90 minutes. They recorded everything. Cortez asked questions in a way that felt more like documentation than interrogation, walking her through the timeline, asking for specific quotes, showing her the security footage frame by frame. When they got to the slap, he paused the video. For the record, Ms. Donovan, did you at any point strike, push, or physically contact Mr. Caldwell before this moment? No. Did you threaten him verbally? I told him he needed to leave the emergency department. Did you use profanity, raise your voice, or make any statements that could be construed as threatening? No. Cortez made a note. Thank you. That corroborates what we see on camera. After the interview, he walked her to the elevator. What happens now? Claire asked. We continue building the case. Caldwell's financial records are being subpoenaed. His corporate accounts are frozen pending investigation. His lawyers are scrambling. Cortez pushed the elevator button. It's going to get loud. Media will pick it up. His people will push back hard. You ready for that? Do I have a choice? Not really. He almost smiled. But for what it's worth, you did everything right. The hospital footage shows a clear assault. The lawsuit he filed is going to fall apart the moment any competent attorney looks at the evidence. He has very competent attorneys. He did. 3 of them quit this morning. The elevator arrived. Claire stepped in, turned around. Why did they quit? Because the retainer checks bounced. Cortez held the door. His assets are locked down pending investigation. No access, no liquidity, no way to pay legal fees. He let the door close. Have a good day, Ms. Donovan. Claire rode down in silence, processing. Assets frozen. Lawyers quitting. This was phase 1, financial pressure. She wondered what phase 2 looked like. She found out 6 hours later. At 4 p.m., every major news outlet in the region ran the same story. FBI opens investigation into tech billionaire Marcus Caldwell. The articles were careful. Allegations, ongoing investigation, no charges filed yet. But the damage was immediate. Vision Tech stock dropped 11% in after-hours trading. Board members released a statement, cooperating fully with authorities. Partners started walking back associations. Claire watched it unfold on her laptop, refreshing news sites every few minutes. Comment sections exploded. Half the people who defended Caldwell yesterday were now calling him a criminal. Public opinion turned on a dime, following the money. Her phone buzzed. Rivera. You watching the news? Yeah. This is the beginning. By tomorrow morning, every business relationship he has will be under review. His board is going to push him out. His investors are going to run. Rivera paused. How are you holding up? I'm okay. You sure? Because this is going to accelerate. When men like Caldwell fall, they don't go quiet. What does that mean? It means he's going to lash out. Try to regain control. You need to stay alert, stay inside, don't go anywhere alone. Call me if anything feels wrong. You think he'd... I think desperate people do desperate things. Rivera's voice hardened. We have eyes on him. He makes a move toward you, we'll know. But I need you to be smart. No heroics, no confrontations. Understood. Good. I'll check in tomorrow. The line went dead. Claire sat in her apartment as daylight faded, watching the city lights flicker on across Creston Falls. Somewhere out there, Marcus Caldwell was watching his empire crumble. Somewhere, people who'd protected him were severing ties. Somewhere, the machinery of justice was grinding forward. She wondered if it would be enough. At 8 p.m., someone knocked on her door. Claire froze. She wasn't expecting anyone. Rivera had said, stay inside, stay alert. Another knock. Harder. She moved to the door carefully, looked through the peephole. Barry, the security guard from the hospital. She opened the door with the chain still on. Barry? Ms. Donovan. He looked uncomfortable. Can I talk to you for a minute? About what? About what happened at the hospital. About what I saw. He glanced down the hallway. Please. I won't take long. Claire studied him. He looked the same as always, tired, rumpled, nearing retirement. No threat that she could see. She unhooked the chain and let him in. Barry stood in her small living room, turning his hat in his hands. I saw the news about Caldwell, the FBI investigation. Yeah. I need to tell you something. Something I should have said right after it happened. He met her eyes. Dr. Pearson called me into his office the day after the incident. Told me the security footage was being archived as part of the investigation. Said I'd be called to testify if needed. Okay. But then he told me something else. Said Caldwell's lawyers had been very clear about what they expected from witness statements. Said there was a lot of money involved. Said people who cooperated could expect consideration. Claire felt cold settle in her stomach. He tried to bribe you. Not directly, just made it clear that the hospital's interests aligned with Caldwell's version of events. That I should think carefully about my retirement benefits before making any formal statements. Barry's jaw tightened. I've got 22 years at Riverside. Pension's supposed to kick in next year. I got grandkids depending on that money. So you stayed quiet. I did, and I've been hating myself for it ever since. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is my original incident report. The one I filed the night it happened, before anyone told me to revise it. It's got everything. Timeline, your behavior, his behavior, the assault, everything. Claire took the envelope. Why give this to me now? Because I saw him hit you. I saw you protect your baby. I saw you stay calm when any other person would have lost it. Barry's voice cracked slightly. And I stood there and let them fire you for it. Let them paint you as the aggressor. I'm not doing that anymore. You could lose your pension, maybe, but I can't lose sleep anymore. He moved toward the door. Give that to whoever needs it. FBI, lawyers, whoever. It's dated and signed. It's the truth. Barry, you don't need to say anything. Just take care of yourself. And that baby. He opened the door, paused. For what it's worth, you were the best nurse we had. Everyone knew it, even the ones who were too scared to say so. He left. Claire stood holding the envelope, feeling something shift. Barry had risked everything, pension, security, future, to do what was right. One person, one choice. Maybe that's all it ever took. She opened the envelope and read the report. It was exactly what Barry had said, detailed, specific, damning. Every moment documented with clinical precision. She photographed every page and sent them to Agent Cortez. His response came back in 30 seconds. Got it. This changes everything. Thank you. Claire set her phone down and walked to her window. The city spread out below, thousands of lives intersecting in ways they'd never know. Marcus Caldwell was out there somewhere, watching his world collapse. Dr. Pearson was probably scrambling to cover his tracks. The hospital board was likely in emergency session. And she was here, 8 months pregnant, holding evidence that would sink them all. Her phone buzzed, the encrypted one, text from Rivera. Caldwell just tried to access his Cayman accounts. All denied. He's making calls, getting desperate. Stay alert. Claire read it twice. Desperate. The most dangerous kind of enemy. She checked her locks, closed her curtains, and sat down to wait. The baby kicked, strong, insistent, alive. Whatever happened next, she had to survive it, not for herself anymore, for the tiny human who didn't ask to be born into this mess. Outside, rain started again. The city glittered through the downpour, beautiful and indifferent. Claire's phone lit up with another message. Unknown number. I know where you live. Her blood went cold. Before she could process, another message. You cost me everything. Time to return the favor. She grabbed the encrypted phone, fingers shaking, dialed Rivera. He's threatening me, Claire said the moment Rivera picked up. Text messages. He knows my address. Stay on the line. Rivera's voice went sharp. Martinez, we need a unit at Donovan's apartment now. Possible hostile approach. Back to Claire. Lock your door. Move away from windows. Do you have anything you can use as a weapon? Kitchen knives. Get one. Stay in the bathroom. It's the most defensible room. We're 3 minutes out. Claire grabbed the biggest knife from her kitchen block and moved to the bathroom, phone pressed to her ear. Her heart hammered. The baby shifted anxiously, responding to her elevated pulse. Talk to me, Rivera said. Keep talking. You're not alone. He's going to kill me. No, he's not. He's panicking, making threats because he has no other options left. But we're already moving. Units are en route. He doesn't get anywhere near you. How did he get my address? Public records. Lawsuit filing probably listed it. Rivera's voice stayed calm, controlled. Claire, listen to me. This is him at his weakest. When people like Caldwell lose everything, they make mistakes. This is a mistake. We're going to use it. Claire heard something outside. Footsteps in the hallway. Someone's out there. That's our team. Martinez and 2 others. They're sweeping the building. A pause. They're at your door. You're going to hear a knock and someone saying, Federal agent. That's ours. Open up. The knock came. Federal agent, Ms. Donovan, please open the door. Claire unlocked it. 3 people in tactical gear swept into her apartment, moving with practiced efficiency. One of them, Martinez, she assumed, checked every room while the other 2 secured positions. Rivera stayed on the phone. You good? Yeah. Martinez will stay with you tonight, full protection. Caldwell makes another move. We'll know about it before he does. What about tomorrow? Tomorrow we finish this. Rivera's voice carried absolute certainty. He just threatened a federal witness. That's a felony. Combined with everything else, he's done. Completely done. The call ended. Martinez materialized in front of her. Tall, Hispanic, eyes that missed nothing. Ma'am, we're going to set up a perimeter. You're safe. Try to get some rest. Rest. Like that was possible with 3 federal agents in her living room and a billionaire somewhere out there making death threats. But Claire tried anyway. She lay down in her bed, fully clothed, knife on the nightstand, phone in her hand. Sleep didn't come. Instead, she thought about choices. Hers, Caldwell's, the cascading consequences of a single moment in an ICU. If she'd moved when he demanded, none of this would be happening. She'd also still be employed, unbruised, anonymous. She'd also be someone who let rich men hit her without consequence. The math didn't work that way. Some equations couldn't balance. Some prices were too high. Outside her door, Martinez moved quietly through her apartment, a ghost keeping watch. Claire closed her eyes and waited for morning, knowing that whatever came next would be decisive. Caldwell had played his last card. Now he'd learn what happened when you threatened someone the government refused to abandon. Morning arrived with the kind of silence that felt unnatural. Claire woke to find Martinez still stationed near her door, coffee cup in hand, eyes sharp despite the all-night watch. Sunlight cut through the blinds in hard lines, dividing her living room into geometric sections of light and shadow. Her phone, the regular one, had 43 notifications. She scrolled through them with detached curiosity. More journalists. 3 calls from lawyers offering representation. A text from her landlord saying they needed to discuss recent events. The encrypted phone had one message, sent at 5:47 a.m., Caldwell in custody. Federal marshals picked him up at 04:30. He's being processed now. Claire read it 3 times before the words connected to meaning. In custody. Martinez, she said quietly. He turned from the window. Ma'am? The message about Caldwell. Yes, ma'am. Picked him up at his estate. Tried to run. Made it about 15 feet before the team took him down. Martinez allowed himself a small smile. Resisted arrest? Added another charge. What happens now? He gets arraigned. Judge sets bail. Though with the flight risk and the witness intimidation charge, bail's going to be high. Maybe denied altogether. Martinez checked his watch. Rivera wants to see you at 0900, Federal Building. She'll brief you on next steps. Claire showered and changed, moving through the motions on autopilot. Her body felt strange, heavy and light at the same time, like gravity had changed overnight. The baby was quiet this morning, conserving energy maybe, or just listening to the shift in her mother's heartbeat. Martinez drove her downtown in an unmarked sedan. The city looked different in daylight. Normal. People going to work, traffic backing up at intersections, coffee shops doing morning rush, like the world hadn't tilted on its axis in the last 48 hours. Rivera met them in the same 7th-floor conference room where Claire had given her statement. She looked like she'd been up all night but functioning on something beyond caffeine, the sharp focus that came with closing a case. How are you? Rivera asked. I don't know yet. Fair answer. Rivera gestured to a chair. Martinez took position by the door. Marcus Caldwell is currently in federal custody at the detention center. He's been charged with witness intimidation, tax fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. Bail hearing is set for 2 p.m. today. Will he get bail? Depends on the judge, but he's a flight risk with resources overseas, or he was before we froze everything. The death threats to you sealed it. Judge might keep him locked up through trial. Rivera pulled out a tablet. Here's what you need to know. This is going to be loud, national media loud. Caldwell's people are already spinning narratives. You're going to be dragged through it. I figured. No, I don't think you understand. Rivera's voice softened. They're going to dig into everything. Your service record, your medical history, your pregnancy. They'll find the father, or the fact that there isn't one in the picture. They'll look for anything that makes you less sympathetic. Claire felt cold spread through her chest. Can they do that? They can try. We'll push back, but I need you prepared. Rivera leaned forward. The FBI investigation is solid. Caldwell's going down regardless. But the hospital situation, the civil lawsuit he filed against you, that's still in play. His lawyers might try to settle now, cut losses, make it go away quietly. I don't want a settlement. You sure? Because a settlement means money. Enough to cover medical bills, living expenses, maybe more. It means this ends now instead of dragging out for months. Claire thought about the lawsuit papers. $5 million in damages. The number had seemed absurd 48 hours ago. If I settle, what happens to him at the hospital level? Nothing. Settlement has a non-disclosure clause. You take the money, sign the papers, nobody talks about what happened. He gets to say it was a misunderstanding. Mutual agreement to resolve the matter. Rivera watched her carefully. But the federal charges proceed regardless. He's still going to prison. This is just about the civil side. Then no settlement. Claire, he hit me. In front of witnesses. On camera. Then he tried to destroy my life with lawyers and money. Claire's voice stayed level, but something underneath had gone hard. If I settle, that becomes a footnote. Rich man pays off the problem. I don't want his money. I want the record to show exactly what he did. Rivera studied her for a long moment. That's going to be the harder road. I've walked harder roads. Yeah. Rivera almost smiled. I remember reading your file. Fallujah. Kandahar. 3 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. You don't scare easy. I'm terrified right now. Good. Means you're paying attention. Rivera stood. Okay. We do this the hard way. I'll notify his attorneys that settlement is off the table. We proceed to discovery. Everything comes out in court. It's going to take time, probably 6 months minimum before trial. You good with that timeline? Claire thought about 6 months. The baby would be born. She'd be recovering, figuring out motherhood, trying to survive on savings that wouldn't last. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice. That's the point. Rivera's voice carried weight. Caldwell spent his whole life thinking other people didn't get choices. That's why we're here. It is... Someone knocked. Martinez opened the door and Agent Cortez stepped in, looking like he'd been running. We have a problem, he said. Rivera's expression didn't change. What kind? Riverside Memorial just filed for bankruptcy protection. Chapter 11. Hospital administration claims they're insolvent due to pending litigation and federal investigation into financial irregularities. Claire felt the room tilt slightly. What does that mean? It means they're trying to shield assets. Cortez handed Rivera a tablet. Dr. Pearson submitted a declaration yesterday claiming the hospital has been operating at a loss for 18 months. Says Caldwell's donations were keeping them afloat. Now that those donations have stopped and the FBI is investigating their financial relationship, they can't meet obligations. That's convenient timing, Rivera said. Yeah, too convenient. Cortez looked at Claire. The bankruptcy filing complicates your situation. If the hospital successfully claims insolvency, any judgment you win against them might be impossible to collect. They're essentially trying to dodge responsibility. Can they do that? They can try. Bankruptcy court will have to determine if the filing is legitimate or if it's a strategic move to avoid liability. Cortez ran a hand through his hair. But here's the thing. We've been auditing Riverside's finances as part of the Caldwell investigation. Their books don't show insolvency. They show creative accounting and money being moved around, but not actual financial distress. Rivera scrolled through the tablet. How fast can you prove it? 2 weeks. Maybe less if we expedite the forensic review. Do it. Rivera set the tablet down. And file a motion to dismiss the bankruptcy petition as fraudulent. If Pearson thinks he can hide behind Chapter 11 after covering for Caldwell, he's about to learn otherwise. Cortez nodded and left. Claire sat processing. The hospital going bankrupt, her employer, former employer, trying to dodge consequences by claiming poverty while hiding assets. They knew this was coming, she said quietly. That's why Pearson postponed my review. He was buying time to set this up. Probably. Rivera pulled out her phone. Which means we need to move faster. Martinez, I want full surveillance on Pearson. Phone records, financial transactions, movement patterns. If he's coordinating with Caldwell's people, I want to know about it. Copy that. Rivera turned back to Claire. You should go home, get some rest. The bail hearing is at 2. You don't need to be there, but it'll be on the news if you want to watch. After that, things are going to accelerate. Accelerate how? Media coverage, discovery requests, depositions. Caldwell's team is going to fight every inch of this. Rivera's voice hardened. They're going to make you testify, put you on the stand, ask questions designed to make you look unstable or opportunistic. You ready for that? I will be. That's not the same as yes. Claire met her eyes. It's the best answer I have right now. Rivera nodded slowly. Fair enough. Go home. I'll call you after the hearing. Martinez drove her back to the apartment. The city felt different now, like she was seeing it through glass, separated from normal life by everything that had happened. People walked past her car at red lights, completely unaware that their local billionaire was in federal custody, that the hospital was claiming bankruptcy, that the foundation of Creston Falls was cracking. Back in her apartment, Claire made tea and turned on the news. Local stations were running the story non-stop. Tech mogul in federal custody. The footage showed Marcus being led into the detention center in handcuffs, trying to hide his face. He looked smaller somehow, less certain. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Ms. Donovan? A woman's voice, professional, tired. This is Sarah Chen from Vision Tech's legal department. I need to speak with you about Marcus Caldwell. Claire's grip tightened on the phone. I'm not supposed to talk to his people. I don't work for him anymore. None of us do. The board fired him this morning, effective immediately. A pause. I'm calling because there are things you should know. Things that didn't make it into the FBI's investigation. Like what? Like the fact that you're not the first person he's done this to. Sarah's voice dropped. There are others. 3 women I know about personally. Hospital staff, service workers, people he thought couldn't fight back. He paid them off. NDAs, settlements, threats. Made it all disappear. Claire felt something cold settle in her stomach. Why are you telling me this? Because I helped him do it. I drafted the NDAs. I delivered the settlement offers. I watched him destroy lives, and I took my paycheck and told myself it wasn't my problem. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. But you didn't settle. You fought back. And now he's in custody, and I have a chance to maybe do one right thing before this all burns down. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want to give you something. Files, documentation. Every settlement he made, every NDA he signed, every payment that went out to cover up what he did. The FBI has financial records, but they don't have context. This is context. Why not give it to the FBI yourself? I will, but I wanted you to have it first. You deserve to know the full picture. A pause. There's a coffee shop on Brennan Street called The Daily Grind. I'll be there in an hour. Corner booth. I'll have a manila envelope. Take it or don't. Your choice. The line went dead. Claire sat staring at her phone. This could be a trap. Caldwell's people trying to get to her. But something in Sarah's voice had sounded genuine. The exhaustion of someone carrying guilt too long. She called Rivera. Someone from Vision Tech's legal team just contacted me, wants to meet, says she has files on other victims. Absolutely not. Rivera's voice went sharp. That's exactly the kind of setup we need to avoid. She sounded legitimate. They always do. Claire, I need you to stay away from anything connected to Caldwell or his company. Let us handle it. Oh, what if she's telling the truth? Then she can bring those files to us. Through official channels, not some coffee shop meeting. Rivera paused. Where and when? Claire told her. Okay, we'll have someone there, watching. If it's legitimate, we'll make contact. But you stay home, understood? Understood. The call ended. Claire paced her apartment, feeling the baby shift with each turn. The idea that there were others, that Marcus Caldwell had been doing this for years, buying silence, erasing accountability. It made the slap in the ICU feel different. Not an isolated incident, a pattern. At 1:45 p.m., she turned on the news for the bail hearing. The courthouse steps were packed. Media vans, reporters, protesters holding signs. Some supported Caldwell. Innocent until proven guilty. Government overreach. Others supported Claire, though they didn't know her name yet. Believe victims, no one is above the law. The hearing itself was brief. The judge, a woman in her 60s with reading glasses and no patience for theatrics, reviewed the charges, heard arguments from both sides, and made her decision in under 10 minutes. Mr. Caldwell, you are charged with multiple federal offenses, including witness intimidation against a pregnant woman. You have significant financial resources, properties overseas, and have demonstrated both means and intent to flee. Bail is denied. You will remain in federal custody pending trial. The gavel came down. In the courtroom footage, Marcus looked stunned. His lawyers immediately started filing objections. The judge ignored them. Claire watched him being led away in handcuffs and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just exhaustion. Her phone buzzed. Rivera. You watching? Yeah. Good result. He's locked up until trial. That's 6 months minimum, probably longer. Rivera paused. The coffee shop meeting was legitimate. We made contact with Sarah Chen. She handed over 4 boxes of documents. NDAs, settlement agreements, payment records, everything she claimed. How many others? At least 7, maybe more. We're still going through it. Women he harassed, threatened, or assaulted over the past 5 years, all paid off, all silenced. Rivera's voice went quiet. You were the first one who said no. Claire closed her eyes. 7 women, 7 lives he'd disrupted. 7 people who'd taken the money because they had no other choice. What happens to them now? We contact them, offer them the chance to testify, break the NDAs since they were signed under duress. Some will want to, some won't. Rivera paused. But they get the choice now, because of you. The words sat heavy. I need to go, Claire said. I need to think. Okay, call me if you need anything. Claire spent the rest of the afternoon sitting by her window, watching the city move. The baby kicked periodically, reminding her that time was still passing, that life was still happening despite everything. At 6 p.m., her regular phone rang. Dr. Pearson. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Ms. Donovan? His voice sounded strained. I wanted to reach out personally about the situation at Riverside Memorial. The bankruptcy filing. Yes, it's complicated. The hospital's financial position has become untenable due to circumstances beyond our control. Circumstances like covering up for Marcus Caldwell. Silence. Then, I understand you're angry, but I'm calling to offer you something. Your job back. Full reinstatement. Retroactive pay for the time you were on leave. We can make this right. Claire laughed. Actual laughter. You're offering me my job back while filing for bankruptcy? The bankruptcy is a restructuring process. The hospital will continue to operate. We still need skilled nurses. You fired me for enforcing hospital policy. That was a mistake. We recognize that now. We're prepared to issue a public apology, restore your record, and ensure this incident doesn't impact your career. Pearson's voice took on a pleading quality. Claire, we're trying to do the right thing here. No, you're trying to avoid a lawsuit you know you'll lose. Claire kept her voice level. The FBI is auditing your finances. They're going to prove the bankruptcy filing is fraudulent. When that happens, you're not going to be offering anyone their job back because you'll be answering questions about obstruction and conspiracy. I don't know what you're talking about. Barry gave me his original incident report, the one you told him to revise. I have documentation of you trying to bribe him into changing his statement. Claire stood up, phone pressed to her ear. So no, Dr. Pearson, I don't want my job back. I want you to face exactly what you helped Caldwell do to me and everyone else he hurt. She hung up, her hands were shaking. She just burned the last bridge to her old life. No hospital job in Creston Falls would hire her now. She'd be blacklisted. But the shaking wasn't from fear. It was from finally saying what needed to be said. Her phone buzzed immediately. Rivera, please tell me you recorded that conversation. How did you... We have a tap on Pearson's phone. Legal warrant. Everything above board. Rivera sounded almost gleeful. He just tried to bribe you. Offered your job back in exchange for dropping the lawsuit. That's witness tampering. Add it to the pile. How deep does this go? Deeper than we thought. The files from Sarah Chen led us to Vision Tech's corporate accounts. Caldwell wasn't just paying off victims, he was using company money. Embezzlement. His board didn't know. His CFO didn't know. He was running a parallel accounting system through shell companies. Rivera paused. Claire, this isn't just assault and fraud anymore. This is organized corruption. Federal prosecutors are talking RICO charges. What's RICO? Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, usually reserved for organized crime. If they can prove Caldwell was running a criminal enterprise through his company, paying bribes, hiding evidence, intimidating witnesses, he's looking at 20 years minimum. Claire sat down slowly. 20 years. What about Pearson? He's being brought in for questioning tomorrow. If he cooperates, maybe he gets a deal. If he doesn't, he goes down with Caldwell. Rivera's voice softened. How are you doing, really? I don't know. This is bigger than I thought. It always was. You just didn't know it yet. A pause. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be another long day. The call ended. Claire sat in her apartment as darkness fell, feeling the weight of everything settle. She'd wanted justice for one slap, one firing, one humiliation. Instead, she'd uncovered a system, a carefully constructed machine of money and silence that had been running for years. And now that machine was coming apart. At 9 p.m., someone knocked on her door. Claire checked the peephole. Martinez was still on duty, standing alert. The person at the door was a woman, early 30s, nervous eyes, holding a folder. Martinez stepped forward. Can I help you? I'm looking for Claire Donovan. The woman's voice shook. My name is Angela Reeves. I'm one of the women from the files, the ones Marcus Caldwell paid off. I need to talk to her. Claire opened the door before Martinez could stop her. Angela looked like she'd been crying recently, makeup smudged, hands trembling. I saw you on the news, Angela said. I saw what you're doing, fighting back. I signed an NDA 3 years ago. Took $40,000 to stay quiet about what he did to me at a company event. I've been carrying it ever since. You don't have to tell me this, Claire said gently. Yes, I do. Because you're doing what I couldn't. You're standing up to him, and I need you to know that you're not alone, that it wasn't just you. Angela's voice cracked. I want to testify. I want to break the NDA. I want him to pay for what he did to all of us. Claire looked at this woman who'd carried shame and silence for 3 years, who'd taken money because she thought she had no other option, who'd watched Claire fight back and found her own courage. Come inside, Claire said. They sat in her small living room. Martinez made tea. Angela told her story, a harassment case at a Vision Tech investor party, Caldwell's hands where they shouldn't be, her objections ignored, security escorting her out, lawyers appearing the next day with a settlement offer and threats about what would happen if she didn't sign. I needed the money, Angela said. I had student loans, medical bills for my mom's cancer treatment. $40,000 was more than I'd make in a year, so I signed. That's not your fault. It feels like it is, like I sold out, like I let him win. You survived, Claire said. That's not selling out. That's doing what you had to do. Angela wiped her eyes. The FBI contacted me this afternoon, said they had records of the settlement, asked if I'd be willing to testify. I told them yes. But I wanted to meet you first. Wanted to say thank you. For what? For not taking the money, for fighting when the rest of us couldn't. Angela stood up. I should go. I needed you to know that what you're doing matters, that it's bigger than just you. After she left, Claire sat in silence. 7 women, 7 stories like Angela's. 7 people who'd been offered the same choice Claire had been offered: take the money, sign the papers, disappear. She'd said no. And because she'd said no, they could speak. Her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. This is Emily Porter. I was one of Caldwell's victims. I'm testifying. Thank you for being brave enough to start this. Another message. Different number. Jessica Ortiz here. Saw the news. I want in. Tell the FBI I'm ready to talk. Another. Miranda Walsh. I signed an NDA in 2021. I'm breaking it. He doesn't own my silence anymore. They kept coming. Messages from women she'd never met, sharing stories she'd never heard. finding courage they thought they'd lost. By midnight, she had 17 messages, 17 women, 17 voices that had been silenced, all of them speaking now. Claire forwarded every message to Rivera and Agent Cortez. Then she sat back and felt something shift in her chest. Not relief, not satisfaction, recognition. She thought this was about one slap, one firing, one fight. But it had never been about her alone. It had been about everyone Marcus Caldwell thought he could erase with money and lawyers and power. And now they were all coming forward. At 1 a.m., her encrypted phone rang. "You need to see something." Rivera's voice carried urgency. "Turn on the news, national coverage." Claire grabbed the remote. Every major network was running the same story. 17 women come forward against tech billionaire. The coverage showed their faces, the ones who'd agreed to be identified. Angela Reeves, Emily Porter, Jessica Ortiz, Miranda Walsh, others, all of them standing together, reading a statement. "We are the women Marcus Caldwell tried to silence. We are the victims he paid to disappear. We are breaking our NDAs tonight because one woman showed us that silence is a choice, not a sentence. Her name is Claire Donovan, and because she refused to back down, we're finding the strength to speak up." The camera cut to federal prosecutors announcing a press conference for tomorrow morning. New charges, new evidence, new witnesses. Claire watched it unfold and felt tears she didn't know she was holding finally break free. Rivera's voice came through the phone. "You did this. You know that, right? This whole thing, it started because you wouldn't move when he told you to." "I just enforced hospital policy." "No, you stood up to power, and power blinked first." Rivera paused. "Sleep if you can. Tomorrow, the world changes." The call ended. Claire sat alone in her dark apartment, hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. Somewhere across town, Marcus Caldwell was in a cell, learning that money couldn't buy silence anymore. Somewhere, Dr. Pearson was realizing his bankruptcy scheme had failed. Somewhere, 17 women were sleeping better than they had in years. And Claire was sitting here, 8 months pregnant, broke, unemployed, facing a future she couldn't predict. But she wasn't alone anymore. Her phone lit up one more time. Message from her brother Danny. "Just saw the news. I'm taking emergency leave, flying out tomorrow. You're not doing this by yourself." She smiled through tears and typed back, "Okay." Outside, the city slept. Inside, Claire felt something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Not peace, purpose. The baby kicked again, harder this time, insistent, like it was reminding her that the fight wasn't over yet, that tomorrow would bring new battles. But tonight, 17 women had found their voices. And Marcus Caldwell was learning that some debts couldn't be paid with money. They had to be answered for in truth. The press conference started at 9 a.m. sharp. Claire watched it from her couch, Danny sitting beside her with coffee he'd made too strong and toast she couldn't eat. He'd arrived on a red-eye flight at 6, looking exhausted but steady. The kind of steady that came from years of showing up when it mattered. Federal prosecutors stood behind a podium bearing the Department of Justice seal. Agent Cortez flanked one side, Rivera the other. The lead prosecutor was a woman named Catherine Walsh, 50s, silver hair, a reputation for dismantling white-collar criminals with the same precision surgeons used on tumors. "Good morning. I'm here to announce additional charges against Marcus Caldwell, former CEO of Vision Tech Industries. Based on evidence gathered over the past 72 hours, including testimony from multiple witnesses, Mr. Caldwell now faces 37 federal counts, including racketeering, conspiracy, witness tampering, embezzlement, and sexual assault." The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Walsh raised a hand. "We have also charged Dr. Richard Pearson, hospital administrator at Riverside Memorial, with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to commit fraud. Mr. Caldwell's former chief financial officer, David Torres, has been charged with money laundering and is cooperating with investigators. This is an ongoing investigation. We expect additional charges as evidence continues to emerge." Danny whistled low. 37 counts. Claire couldn't speak. She watched Walsh field questions with clinical efficiency, watched Rivera stand behind the podium with the kind of calm that came from knowing every detail had been locked down. watched the entire apparatus of federal law enforcement declare that Marcus Caldwell's empire had been built on crimes they could prove. Her phone started ringing. Journalists, lawyers, people wanting statements, interviews, her side of the story. She ignored all of it. At 10 a.m., Rivera called. "You watching?" "Yeah." "Good, because it's about to get more interesting." Rivera's voice carried something Claire hadn't heard before: satisfaction. Caldwell's lawyer just filed a motion to suppress evidence, claims the FBI overstepped, that the search warrants were too broad, that his rights were violated. Will it work? No. But it'll slow things down. Buy him time. Rivera paused. Which is why we're accelerating. The civil lawsuit he filed against you, we're moving to have it dismissed with prejudice. Given the criminal charges and the evidence of witness intimidation, no judge is going to let that lawsuit proceed. When? Hearing scheduled for Friday, 2 days. Rivera's tone shifted. You'll need to be there. In person. It's your lawsuit to dismiss. Claire felt her stomach tighten. In court? Just for the motion hearing, you won't testify. Your lawyers will handle it. But the judge will want to see you. Rivera softened slightly. I know courtrooms aren't easy, but this is the beginning of getting your life back. After the call ended, Claire sat staring at her phone. Friday. 2 days to prepare for walking into a courtroom where Marcus Caldwell's lawyers would be sitting, where his money would still have teeth, even if the man himself was locked up. You okay? Danny asked. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Be the person everyone's watching, the face of this whole thing. She gestured at the television, where news coverage was replaying clips of the press conference alongside photos of her, the hospital badge photo someone had leaked, grainy and unflattering. I just wanted him to face consequences. Now there's 17 other women in federal charges, and I'm supposed to stand in a courtroom and what? Exist? Danny set down his coffee. Claire, you're not doing anything except showing up. That's it. You show up, you let the lawyers talk, you exist in that space as proof that he didn't erase you. That's all they need. What if I can't? Then I'll be sitting right behind you, and if you need to leave, we leave. He said it simply, like it was already decided. But you're going to be okay. You've been through worse. She wanted to believe him, wanted to think that a courtroom would be easier than field hospitals and mortar fire and making life or death calls in 30 seconds. But that had been different. That had been her in uniform, trained, prepared, operating in a role she understood. This was her as herself, pregnant, unemployed, fighting a battle she hadn't chosen. The baby kicked, hard enough to hurt. Danny noticed her wince. When's the last time you saw a doctor? 2 weeks ago. You should go. Get checked out. Make sure everything's okay. I can't afford it. No insurance anymore. I'll cover it. Danny, I'm covering it. Non-negotiable. He pulled out his phone. What's your OB's number? She gave it to him. Watched him make the appointment with the same efficiency he probably used coordinating military operations. 4 p.m. today, emergency slot. He gave them his card number over the phone without hesitating. You don't have to do this, Claire said quietly. Yeah, I do. You're my sister, and that's my niece or nephew in there. He pocketed his phone. Besides, you'd do it for me. You're not getting pregnant anytime soon. You never know. Army's changing policies all the time. She laughed, first time in days. It felt strange, like using muscles she'd forgotten existed. The OB appointment was routine until it wasn't. Dr. Sanders, a woman in her 40s who'd been handling Claire's prenatal care with cheerful efficiency, did the usual checks, measured fundal height, listened to the heartbeat. Everything normal. Then she frowned. What? Claire asked. Your blood pressure's elevated, not dangerously, but higher than your baseline. Dr. Sanders made notes. Any headaches? Vision changes? Swelling in your hands or feet? Some swelling. I thought that was normal. It can be, but combined with elevated BP, I want to monitor it. She pulled out a blood pressure cuff. Given everything you've been through this week, the stress, the physical assault, the media attention, your body's reacting. I need you to take it easy. Reduce stress where possible. Claire almost laughed. Reduce stress? I know. Easier said than done. Dr. Sanders' expression softened. I saw the news. What happened to you at Riverside was wrong, but right now your priority has to be you and this baby. The legal stuff, the media, all of it. It can wait. It can't, though. Then you need help. Someone to buffer you from it. Someone to handle the logistics while you focus on staying healthy. She printed out a prescription. This is for low-dose aspirin. Take it daily. It helps with blood pressure. And I want to see you weekly from now until delivery. If your BP goes higher, we talk about bed rest. I can't afford weekly appointments. Dr. Sanders looked at her for a long moment. Claire, I'm going to be direct with you. You're 34 weeks pregnant. You were assaulted. You're under massive stress. You're at risk for preeclampsia, preterm labor, and a dozen other complications. Money is not the reason you skip medical care. Understood? Claire felt something crack. I don't know how to pay you. We'll figure it out. Riverside might be bankrupt, but they still owe you. VA benefits cover some prenatal care, and if all else fails, I'll bill you, and you can pay me back over the next decade. I don't care. Dr. Sanders squeezed her hand. You saved lives in the Army. You stood up to a billionaire. Let someone take care of you for once. In the parking lot afterward, Claire sat in Danny's rental car and cried. Not from fear, not from stress, from the simple fact that someone had looked at her situation and decided helping was more important than getting paid. What'd she say? Danny asked when she'd composed herself. Blood pressure's high. Need weekly appointments. Need to reduce stress. Okay, so we reduce stress. How? We start by getting you out of that apartment. Come stay at my hotel. Room service, quiet, no reporters knocking on your door. He started the engine. We get a lawyer to handle all the media requests, someone who can say no comment professionally. We let Rivera and the FBI do their jobs while you focus on staying pregnant for 6 more weeks. I can't hide, Not hiding. Strategic retreat. There's a difference. Danny pulled out of the parking lot. You've done your part, Claire. You made the call. You gave your statement. You refused to settle. The machine is running now. Let it run. That night, Claire packed a bag and moved into Danny's hotel room, a suite at the Creston Plaza with 2 bedrooms, room service, and windows that didn't face the street. Martinez posted up in the lobby. Rivera approved the location. It felt like witness protection without the paperwork. Thursday passed in a blur of phone calls and preparation. The lawyer handling her civil case, a woman named Patricia Odoms, who'd taken the case pro bono after seeing the news, walked Claire through what to expect at Friday's hearing. Simple motion to dismiss. 10 minutes, maximum. Claire wouldn't speak unless directly asked by the judge. Caldwell's lawyers will argue the lawsuit has merit regardless of criminal charges, Patricia explained over a video call. They'll say civil and criminal are separate. The judge will ask if they have any evidence to support their claims. They don't. Motion granted, lawsuit dismissed. That's simple? That's simple. The hard part is you have to be there. Show your face. Let the judge see you're real. Patricia's voice gentled. I know that's not easy, but it matters. I'll be there. Friday morning arrived cold and gray. Claire dressed carefully. Maternity slacks, a blouse that covered the fading bruise on her jaw, flats that wouldn't slip on courthouse steps. Danny wore his dress uniform. When she asked why, he shrugged. Solidarity. Plus it makes security nervous to harass me. The courthouse steps were packed. Media vans lined the street. Protesters held signs. Justice for Claire, lock him up, believe survivors. Counter-protesters held different signs. Innocent until proven guilty. Trial by media is not justice. Patricia met them at the side entrance. We're going in through security. Avoid the cameras. Inside, the courthouse smelled like floor wax and old paper. The hallways echoed with footsteps and muted conversations. They took an elevator to the 3rd floor, walked past courtrooms with closed doors and muffled voices. Courtroom 3C, family law and civil motions. Patricia held the door. Ready? Claire nodded because speaking felt impossible. The courtroom was smaller than she'd expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, bench seating that looked uncomfortable. Marcus Caldwell's lawyers were already there. 3 of them, expensive suits, leather briefcases. They looked up when Claire entered. One of them, The lead attorney, Gregory Hammond, smiled. Not friendly, predatory. Claire took a seat behind Patricia. Danny sat beside her. Martinez stood by the door. At 9 a.m. exactly, the bailiff called court to order. All rise. The Honorable Judge Andrea Blackwell presiding. Judge Blackwell entered. A black woman in her 60s with reading glasses and an expression that suggested she'd seen every trick lawyers could pull and wasn't impressed by any of them. Be seated. Case number 24-CV-8847, Caldwell v. Donovan, motion to dismiss. Patricia stood. Your Honor, Patricia Odoms representing the defendant Claire Donovan. We move to dismiss the plaintiff's lawsuit with prejudice based on evidence that the complaint was filed in bad faith as part of a pattern of witness intimidation. Mr. Caldwell is currently in federal custody, facing 37 criminal charges, including assault against my client. The lawsuit claims she attacked him. Security footage and witness testimony prove otherwise. Hammond stood. Your Honor, Gregory Hammond for the plaintiff. The criminal charges are irrelevant to this civil matter. Our client maintains that Ms. Donovan acted aggressively and unprofessionally, causing him emotional distress and reputational harm. We have a right to pursue damages. Judge Blackwell looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Hammond, your client is in federal custody for assaulting the defendant, on camera, in front of witnesses. What evidence do you have that supports your claim? She attacked him? We have Mr. Caldwell's sworn statement. Mr. Caldwell's sworn statement is contradicted by video evidence and 17 other witnesses who've come forward describing similar assaults. Do you have anything else? Hammond shuffled papers. Your Honor, we believe discovery will reveal discovery. Judge Blackwell's voice went flat. You want to drag a pregnant woman who was assaulted by your client through months of depositions and document requests on the theory that maybe you'll find something that contradicts the overwhelming evidence against you? We have a right to present our case. You have a right to file non-frivolous lawsuits. This lawsuit is frivolous. It's harassment disguised as litigation. She looked directly at Claire. Ms. Donovan, would you stand, please? Claire's legs felt unsteady, but she stood. Ms. Donovan, is it true that Mr. Caldwell struck you at Riverside Memorial Hospital on October 28th? Yes, Your Honor. And is it true he filed this lawsuit after you refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement? Patricia started to object, but Claire spoke first. Yes, Your Honor. His lawyers offered a settlement. I said no. The lawsuit came the next day. Judge Blackwell nodded slowly. Thank you. You may sit. She turned back to Hammond. Mr. Hammond, I'm granting the motion to dismiss with prejudice. This lawsuit is a transparent attempt to intimidate a witness in a federal criminal case. It's an abuse of the legal system. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning your client for filing a frivolous suit. Ms. Donovan is entitled to attorney's fees and costs. Hammond stood frozen. Your Honor, if we could have a continuance to present additional evidence, no. Motion granted. This case is dismissed. Sanctions order to follow. The gavel came down. Next case. Just like that. 90 seconds. The lawsuit that had hung over Claire's head for a week, gone. Patricia touched her arm. Let's go. They walked out quickly. In the hallway, Claire leaned against the wall and tried to breathe. Her heart was racing. The baby was kicking. Danny's hand steadied her shoulder. You okay? He lost. Yeah, he did. Patricia was already on her phone texting someone. The sanctions are going to be significant. Judge Blackwell doesn't play around. I'd estimate $50,000 minimum for your legal fees and costs. Caldwell has to pay me? If he has any money left after the federal government takes it, yes. Patricia smiled. But honestly, watching Hammond squirm in there was payment enough. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Microphones, cameras, shouted questions. Martinez and Danny formed a barrier. Patricia gave a brief statement. Lawsuit dismissed, client vindicated, justice served, while Claire stood silent. Then a voice cut through the noise. Claire! She turned. Angela Reeves stood at the edge of the crowd, flanked by three other women Claire recognized from the news coverage. Emily Porter, Jessica Ortiz, Miranda Walsh. Angela pushed through. We wanted to be here, to support you. You didn't have to. Yes, we did. Emily stepped forward. You stood alone in that hospital. We're not letting you stand alone in court. The cameras swung toward them. 4 women who'd broken their NDAs, standing with the woman who'd made it possible. The image would be on every news site within the hour. Patricia leaned close to Claire. You want to make a statement? Claire looked at the women beside her, looked at the cameras, looked at the courthouse where a judge had just declared that money didn't buy the right to harass victims. Yeah, she said quietly. I do. Patricia arranged them on the courthouse steps. Claire stood in the center, Angela and the others flanking her. Danny stayed close. Martinez kept the crowd back. My name is Claire Donovan, she said. Her voice shook but carried. 10 days ago, Marcus Caldwell assaulted me at Riverside Memorial Hospital because I was doing my job. He thought his money made him untouchable. He was wrong. The cameras focused. Reporters stopped shouting. I'm not special, I'm not brave, I'm just someone who refused to disappear when a powerful man told me to. And because I refused, these women, she gestured to Angela and the others, found the courage to speak up about what he did to them. We're not victims anymore. We're witnesses. And we're going to make sure everyone knows what Marcus Caldwell really is. She stepped back. The women beside her nodded. The crowd erupted with questions. Patricia fielded them while Claire retreated to Danny's car. Inside, sealed off from the noise, she felt the adrenaline drain away. You did good, Danny said. I almost threw up. But you didn't. That's what counts. Her phone buzzed. Rivera. Saw the statement. Well done. Thanks. I'm calling because there's been a development. Caldwell's CFO, David Torres, just gave a full confession. He's been cooperating for 36 hours, laying out the entire financial scheme. Shell companies, offshore accounts, payment trails for the settlements. Everything. Rivera paused. He also confirmed something we suspected. Caldwell has been moving money for the past 6 months. Preparing for this. Claire felt cold. Preparing for what? For getting caught. He knew the FBI was circling. He's been liquidating assets, transferring funds to accounts we can't touch. The bankruptcy filing from Riverside wasn't Pearson's idea, it was Caldwell's, part of a larger plan to hide money before federal seizure. How much did he hide? We're still calculating, but preliminary estimates suggest $60 million moved through cryptocurrency exchanges and offshore trusts. He was building an escape fund. Can you get it back? We're trying, but crypto is hard to trace. Offshore trusts are harder. If he structured it right, he might keep a significant portion even after conviction. Rivera's voice hardened. Which is why we need to make sure the criminal case is airtight. He can't buy his way out of prison, but he could fund appeals for years. Claire closed her eyes. $60 million. Hidden. Protected. Ensuring that even if Marcus Caldwell went to prison, he'd come out wealthy. What do you need from me? Keep doing what you're doing. Stay visible. Stay strong. The trial is 4 months away. Between now and then, his lawyers will try every trick to undermine the case. Character assassination, evidence suppression, witness intimidation. They'll come after you, the other women, anyone who testified. We need you to hold the line. I will. I know. That's why we're going to win. The call ended. Danny drove back to the hotel in silence. Claire watched the city pass, familiar streets that felt different now. She'd lived in Creston Falls for 9 months, anonymous, quiet. Now her face was on every news site, her name in every article about the case. Back at the hotel, she found a package waiting at the front desk. No return address, just her name written in careful script. Martinez checked it first, protocol. When he cleared it, Claire opened the box. Inside, a handwritten letter and a check. The letter was from Sarah, Vision Tech's former legal counsel. Claire, I know money doesn't fix what was done to you, but the files I gave the FBI revealed payment patterns that led to recovery of funds Caldwell stole from employee pension accounts. The recovered amount was distributed back to employees who'd lost retirement savings. They wanted to thank you. This is from all of us, everyone at Vision Tech who was hurt by what he did. It's not much individually, but together we managed to collect this. Use it for your baby. Use it to rebuild. Use it however you need. You gave us justice. This is us trying to give you peace. Sarah. The check was for $27,000. Claire stared at it. 27,000. From employees she'd never met, people whose retirement Caldwell had stolen, who'd gotten their money back because the investigation had uncovered his schemes. She showed Danny. He whistled. That's your medical bills covered, plus nursery furniture, plus a few months of rent. I can't take this. Why not? Because I didn't do it for money. I did it because he hit me and I refused to let him get away with it. And these people are thanking you for that. Not paying you off. Thanking you. Danny squeezed her shoulder. Take it, Claire. You've earned some peace. That night, Claire deposited the check, paid her overdue rent, bought a crib online, made an appointment with a financial advisor to figure out how to make the money last. For the first time in 2 weeks, she felt like maybe the future wasn't just survival. Maybe it could be something more. At midnight, her phone buzzed. The encrypted one. Message from Rivera. Caldwell tried to make a call from detention, calling in favors. Judge denied all requests. He's isolated now. No contact with anyone except his lawyers. The walls are closing in. Claire read it twice and felt something settle in her chest. Marcus Caldwell, billionaire, tech mogul, man who'd thought he was untouchable, was sitting in a cell, cut off from his money, his connections, his power, learning what it felt like to be alone. She thought about the ICU, the slap, the way he'd smiled afterward like he'd won something. He'd lost everything that mattered to him, and she was still standing. The baby kicked, regular rhythm now, reassuring. 6 weeks until delivery, 4 months until trial. A lifetime of aftermath to navigate. But tonight, for the first time since this started, Claire slept without nightmares. Danny kept watch from the other room. Martinez patrolled the hallway. Rivera monitored feeds from somewhere in the city. The machine that had activated when she made that first call was still running, still protecting, still ensuring that the man who'd tried to destroy her learned the hardest lesson of his life. Some debts couldn't be paid with money. They had to be answered for in truth, witnessed, documented, judged by people who remembered that power was supposed to mean something other than the ability to hurt without consequences. And in a federal detention center across town, Marcus Caldwell was finally learning what consequences felt like. But in the quiet hours before dawn, a new message appeared on the warden's desk. A federal transfer order that shouldn't have existed, signed by officials whose names didn't match any current roster, directing that prisoner Caldwell be moved to a different facility for security reasons. The order was perfect. The signatures looked authentic, and by the time anyone thought to verify it, Marcus Caldwell was gone. The call came at 3:47 a.m. Claire woke to her encrypted phone vibrating against the nightstand. That specific pattern that meant urgent, that meant move. Danny was already up, standing in her doorway in sweatpants and a t-shirt, weapon drawn. Muscle memory from deployments where 3 a.m. calls meant incoming. Rivera's voice came through clipped and cold. Caldwell's gone. Claire's brain struggled to process. Gone where? Missing. Transfer order came through at 0200. Federal marshals took him from detention. Except the marshals say they never sent the order. Signatures are fake. Whole thing's a setup. Rivera's voice carried an edge Claire had never heard before. Not anger, something sharper. Someone broke him out. How is that possible? Money. Lots of it. The $60 million we thought he hid. He used some of it to buy his way out. Forged documents, bribed guards, the whole extraction planned months ago as a failsafe. A pause. He's been gone for 90 minutes. We've got every agency looking, but he had a head start. Danny was already getting dressed, checking his phone. Claire sat up slowly, feeling the baby shift with the sudden movement. What do you need from me? Stay where you are. Martinez is outside your door. We're locking down the hotel. He's not coming for you. He's running. But until we have him back in custody, you're in protective detail. Rivera's voice softened slightly. Claire, I'm sorry. We thought he was secured. Someone in the system helped him, and we're going to find out who, but right now, just find him. We will. The line went dead. Danny holstered his weapon and sat on the edge of her bed. You good? No. Claire pressed her hands against her belly, feeling the steady rhythm of kicks. He's out there. Free. After everything, He's not free. He's running. There's a difference. Danny's voice carried the certainty of someone who'd hunted people before. Running means scared, means looking over your shoulder, means every border crossing, every transaction, every face in a crowd could be the one that ends it. That's not freedom. But he's not in a cell. Not yet. Claire wanted to believe him, wanted to think that money couldn't buy permanent escape, but she'd seen enough of the world to know that wealthy people vanished all the time, slipped through cracks, landed in countries without extradition, lived comfortable lives while their victims waited for justice that never came. She got out of bed because lying there felt impossible, paced the hotel room while Danny made coffee and Martinez checked in from the hallway. Outside, the city was still dark, still sleeping, completely unaware that a federal fugitive was somewhere out there with resources and a grudge. At 5 a.m., the news broke. Every network ran it within minutes. Billionaire escapes federal custody. The coverage showed his mugshot, the empty cell, federal officials scrambling to explain how someone awaiting trial on 37 counts had walked out of a detention center with forged paperwork. Talking heads speculated about corruption, about how deep his money went, about whether he'd flee to a country without extradition. Claire watched it all and felt something she hadn't let herself feel in 2 weeks. Fear. Not for herself. For what it meant if Marcus Caldwell could buy his way out of federal custody. If money could erase consequences even after everything they'd built, every woman who'd come forward, every piece of evidence gathered. Her phone rang. Regular phone this time, unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Ms. Donovan?" A man's voice, older, tired. "This is Special Agent Warren Briggs, FBI Fugitive Task Force. I'm calling because we need to discuss Marcus Caldwell's escape." "Okay. I need you to understand something. When someone like Caldwell runs, they usually have a destination already planned. Safe house, foreign account accesses, new identity documents. He's been preparing this for months, maybe longer." Briggs paused. "But he made a mistake. He left a trail, small things, a burner phone purchase in Virginia, a chartered flight from a private airfield, credit card activity that doesn't match his usual patterns. We're tracking it." "How long?" "Until we find him? Hard to say. Could be hours, could be days." His voice hardened. "But we will find him. People like Caldwell get comfortable with money-solving problems. They get sloppy because they've never had to run before. We've done this 1,000 times. He's done it once. What do you need from me?" "Stay safe. Stay visible. The worst thing you could do right now is hide. If he thinks he's winning, if he thinks he's scared you into silence, that's when he gets bold. When he gets bold, he makes mistakes." Briggs paused. "You've been brave through all this. Stay brave a little longer." The call ended. Claire looked at Danny. "They think he'll make a mistake. He already did. He ran instead of facing it." Danny poured coffee. "You run. You look guilty. You look guilty. The whole world sees it. Every person who defended him, every media outlet that questioned the charges, they're watching him flee like a coward. That's not something money can spin away." At 7 a.m., Claire's lawyer Patricia called with news. Riverside Memorial's bankruptcy filing was denied. Federal judge ruled it fraudulent. Exactly what Rivera predicted. The hospital's assets are unfrozen. They're liable for damages to you and everyone else who was wronged. What does that mean? It means you can sue them. For wrongful termination, for failing to protect you from assault, for conspiring with Caldwell to cover it up. The case is strong. Settlement offers will start coming within a week. Patricia's voice carried satisfaction. Dr. Pearson was arrested an hour ago. Tried to board a flight to Costa Rica. Apparently he'd been communicating with Caldwell about the escape. Conspiracy charges are being filed. Claire closed her eyes. Pearson arrested. The hospital exposed. The whole system that had protected Caldwell starting to crumble. What about the other women? Angela and the others who came forward. They can sue too. Class action probably. There's talk of a victim compensation fund using Caldwell's seized assets. Patricia paused. Claire, this is bigger than one lawsuit now. This is institutional change. Hospitals changing policies, companies revising harassment procedures, legal precedents being set. You started something. After the call, Claire sat by the window watching dawn break over Creston Falls. The city looked peaceful from 14 floors up, traffic starting to move, lights flickering on in buildings, people beginning their Friday routines. Somewhere out there, Marcus Caldwell was running. And here she was, 8 months pregnant, watching the sunrise. At 9 a.m., Rivera called again. "We got him." Claire's heart stopped. "Where?" "Private airfield outside Richmond. He chartered a jet to the Caymans, probably trying to reach his offshore accounts. TSA flagged the passenger manifest. FBI was waiting when he landed for refueling." Rivera sounded exhausted but triumphant. "He's back in custody. Real marshals this time. He's being transferred to a maximum security facility. No bail, no contact, no escape." "You're sure?" "I watched the arrest on satellite feed 20 minutes ago. He tried to run again, made it about 10 feet before they tackled him on the tarmac." Rivera allowed herself a small laugh. Man's in his 50s, out of shape, trying to outrun federal agents. It was pathetic. Claire felt something release in her chest. Tension she'd been holding since 3:47 a.m. finally letting go. What happens now? Now he sits in a cell and waits for trial. 4 months, no phone privileges, no visitors except attorneys, every communication monitored. He's going to have a lot of time to think about his choices. Rivera paused. The escape attempt added new charges, flight to avoid prosecution, additional witness intimidation since the transfer order mentioned you by name in the threat assessment. His lawyers are scrambling, but there's nothing to scramble. He's done. How long? For sentencing, 30 years minimum with the RICO charges, probably 40 with the escape added in. He's 53 now. He'll be 90 before parole is even a possibility. Rivera's voice softened. "Claire, this is real. You won. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison because he hit you and you refused to disappear." The words should have felt like victory. Instead, they felt like exhaustion. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said quietly. "Sure." "Was it worth it? Everything I went through, the firing, the lawsuit, the threats, all of it. Was it worth it?" Rivera was quiet for a moment. "That's not a question I can answer for you, but I can tell you what I've seen. 17 women found their voices because you found yours first. A hospital was held accountable for protecting an abuser. A company's financial crimes were exposed. Policies changed. Lives changed. Yeah, you paid a price, but what you bought with it matters." After the call ended, Claire sat with that. What you bought with it matters. She'd lost her job, lost her savings, spent 2 weeks terrified and exhausted, given up any chance of quiet anonymity. But Marcus Caldwell was in custody. Dr. Pearson was arrested. The hospital faced consequences. And 17 women were free from silence. The math worked out differently than she'd expected. But it worked. Danny emerged from his room, phone in hand. "You see the news?" Rivera called. "They got him." "Good." He sat down across from her. "Mom called. Wants to fly out when the baby comes. Dad too, but he's pretending he doesn't care, even though he asked about flight times." Claire felt tears start. She hadn't talked to her parents through any of this, hadn't wanted to worry them, hadn't known how to explain that their daughter had become national news for getting hit by a billionaire. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That you stood up to someone who needed standing up to. That you're stronger than any of us gave you credit for. That I'm proud as hell to be your brother." Danny's voice roughened. "They're proud too. Scared, but proud." "I don't feel strong." "Nobody strong ever does. That's the trick." He smiled. "You feel strong when you're pretending. You feel terrified when you're actually doing it." At noon, Claire's phone started buzzing with messages. The women, Angela, Emily, Jessica, Miranda, and a dozen others she'd never met, created a group chat. Messages poured in. "He's back in custody. We're safe. Thank you for not giving up. Planning a celebration dinner when this is all over. You better come." My daughter asked me why I was crying. I told her they were happy tears. First happy tears in 3 years. Claire read them all and felt something shift. She'd spent 2 weeks thinking this was her fight, her burden, her consequence to bear alone. But it had never been just hers. At 2 p.m., Patricia called with settlement offers. Riverside Memorial wanted to settle for $250,000. Vision Tech's board offered $300,000. Both included public apologies, policy changes, and acknowledgement of wrongdoing. "What do you think?" Patricia asked. Claire thought about the money, about what it could buy: medical care, nursery furniture, rent for a year, maybe two, security, stability, the thing she'd been chasing since she left the army. Counteroffer, she said. I'll take half. The rest goes into a victim compensation fund for the other women, and I want written policy changes. Mandatory reporting for workplace assault, independent review boards, termination of anyone who retaliates against victims. Make it so the next person who gets hit doesn't have to fight like I did. Patricia was quiet for a moment. That's going to reduce your settlement significantly. I know. You're sure? Yeah, I didn't do this for money. I did it so it couldn't happen again. Okay, I'll draft the counteroffer. Patricia's voice carried something Claire had rarely heard from lawyers: respect. For the record, that's the right choice. The settlements took 3 weeks to finalize. Claire ended up with $125,000 between both agreements, enough to cover medical bills, enough to put down a deposit on a small house outside the city, enough to build something stable. The rest, $425,000 combined, went into a fund administered by an independent board. The 17 women who'd broken their NDAs received compensation. 3 other victims who'd been too scared to come forward initially received it too, and the remainder funded a nonprofit focused on workplace assault prevention and victim advocacy. Angela insisted on naming it the Sparrow Foundation. Claire tried to object, but Angela was firm. You were Sparrow once. You flew into dangerous places and saved lives. You did it again when you stood up to Caldwell. The name fits. The trial happened in February. 4 months of preparation, 3 weeks of testimony, and a verdict that came back in 7 hours. Guilty on all 37 original counts. Guilty on the escape charges. Guilty on the additional conspiracy charges from the transfer order forgery. Marcus Caldwell stood in the courtroom and heard the word guilty 42 times. The judge sentenced him to 45 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Claire watched from the gallery, 8 days postpartum, with her daughter Emma sleeping in Danny's arms beside her. She'd testified during the trial, 3 hours on the stand, recounting the ICU incident with clinical precision, while Caldwell's lawyers tried to make her look vindictive or opportunistic. The jury hadn't believed them. 17 other women testified. Each one told their story. Each one faced the defense attorneys and didn't back down. The verdict was never in doubt. When the sentence came down, Claire felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just finality. Marcus Caldwell was led away in handcuffs. He didn't look back. Dr. Pearson received 6 years for conspiracy and obstruction. He testified against Caldwell in exchange for a reduced sentence, giving detailed accounts of how the hospital had covered up previous incidents and coordinated with Caldwell's lawyers to intimidate witnesses. Barry, the security guard who'd given Claire his original incident report, was offered the director of hospital security position at Riverside after the previous administration was removed. He accepted. Sarah, Vision Tech's former legal counsel, started working with the Sparrow Foundation. Her insider knowledge of corporate harassment tactics made her invaluable in helping other victims navigate legal systems designed to protect companies over people. And Claire moved into a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb 40 minutes from Creston Falls. Close enough to stay connected, far enough to breathe. 6 months after the trial, she got a job offer. Not from a hospital, she'd decided healthcare needed a break. From a veterans advocacy organization looking for someone who understood trauma, who could speak to military personnel struggling with transition to civilian life. The pay was less than nursing. The impact was greater. She took it. On a Tuesday morning in early spring, Claire stood in the kitchen of her small house making coffee while Emma babbled in her bouncer. Sunlight streamed through windows she'd left uncurtained because she didn't need to hide anymore. Her phone buzzed. Text from Angela. Foundation meeting next week. Need your input on the new workplace harassment prevention program. Also, Emily's getting married and wants you at the wedding. Also, we're having drinks Friday to celebrate the anniversary of Caldwell's sentencing. You coming? Claire smiled and typed back, yes to all 3. I'll bring Emma. Another text, this one from Rivera. Caldwell's appeal was denied. He's staying locked up. Thought you'd want to know. Claire looked at that message for a long time. Part of her had been waiting for the other shoe to drop, for money or lawyers or some technicality to set him free. But it hadn't happened. The system had worked. Slowly, imperfectly, but it had worked. She replied, "Thank you for everything." Rivera's response came quickly. "You did the work. I just helped clean up after. Proud of you, Sparrow." The call sign still felt strange. She'd been Claire Donovan, civilian, for 6 years. But some things didn't disappear just because you changed clothes. Emma made a sound, not crying, just demanding attention. Claire picked her up, settled her against her shoulder, felt the solid weight of new life. "You want to know something?" Claire said quietly to her daughter. "Your mom got hit by a billionaire once. And instead of staying down, she stood back up and made sure he'd never hit anyone else again. That's not because I'm special. It's because I got tired of watching powerful people face no consequences." Emma grabbed a fistful of Claire's hair and pulled. "Yeah, I know. Very dramatic. Your Uncle Danny says I should write a memoir. I told him nobody wants to read about a pregnant nurse who enforced hospital policy and ended up taking down a tech mogul." She smiled. "But maybe when you're older, you'll understand. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is refuse to disappear when someone tells you to." Danny's truck pulled into the driveway. He'd taken leave to help with Emma's first months, had decided to stay close even after. Something about becoming an uncle had softened the edges that deployments had sharpened. He walked in carrying groceries and looking at his phone. "You see this?" "See what?" He showed her an article. "Workplace harassment reports up 300% since Caldwell case." The piece discussed how the trial had created a ripple effect, employees feeling empowered to report misconduct, companies scrambling to update policies, legal precedents being cited in cases across the country. The Caldwell case had become shorthand for holding power accountable. "They're calling it the Caldwell effect," Danny said. "People standing up to workplace abuse because they saw you do it first." Claire read the article while Emma chewed on her collar. 300% increase in reports, most of them leading to investigations, many resulting in terminations or criminal charges. The system responding because enough people had decided silence was more expensive than speaking. "You started something," Danny said. "I just didn't want him to get away with it. That's what starting something looks like." He took Emma, gave her a bottle. "You hungry? I bought stuff for dinner." "Always hungry." They moved through the house together, the small domestic routine of feeding a baby, making dinner, talking about nothing important. Normal life. The kind Claire had wanted when she'd left the army. The kind she'd thought she'd lost when Marcus Caldwell had slapped her in an ICU. But she'd found it again. Different than expected. Harder won, but real. That night, after Emma was asleep and Danny had gone home and the house was quiet, Claire sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea and looked at the files Patricia had sent over. Civil cases still pending, women still coming forward, the Sparrow Foundation expanding to help victims in other industries, other cities, other fights. She thought about the scared pregnant nurse who'd stood in an emergency department 200 days ago and enforced a simple rule. That bed isn't yours. She thought about how that moment had cascaded into everything after, the slap, the firing, the call, the investigation, the trial, the verdict. She thought about Marcus Caldwell sitting in a federal prison cell, stripped of money and power, and the illusion that wealth made him untouchable. And she thought about the women who'd found their voices because she'd found hers first. The math still didn't work the way she'd expected. She'd lost her nursing career, lost her anonymity, spent months terrified and broke and fighting battles she hadn't chosen. But she'd gained something too. Purpose, community, proof that refusing to back down mattered. Her phone buzzed one last time, text from a number she didn't recognize. "My name is Rachel Torres. I work at a law firm downtown. My boss harassed me for 6 months. I was going to quit and stay quiet. Then I read about you, about what you did. I filed a complaint today. HR is investigating. I wanted to say thank you for showing me it was possible." Claire stared at the message. Another woman. Another fight. Another person who'd decided silence was too expensive. She typed back, "You showed yourself. I just went first. Stay strong. You're not alone." Rachel's response came quickly. "Neither are you." And that, Claire thought, was the whole point. Power had always relied on isolation, on victims thinking they were alone, that speaking up was pointless, that the system would protect money over justice. But when enough people refused to stay isolated, when enough voices joined together, power couldn't hold. It wasn't about being fearless. Claire was still scared sometimes, scared of money finding loopholes, scared of appeals succeeding, scared that Emma would grow up in a world where hitting someone carried no consequences if you were wealthy enough. But fear didn't mean paralysis. It meant moving forward anyway. She looked at Emma's baby monitor, tiny chest rising and falling in steady sleep. 6 months old, too young to understand what her mother had done, what it had cost, what it had changed. Someday she'd be old enough to ask. Someday Claire would tell her the whole story, not the sanitized version, but the real one. The fear, the exhaustion, the moments she'd wanted to give up. And she'd tell her daughter the most important part, that ordinary people could stand up to extraordinary power if they refused to disappear. The justice wasn't something handed down from above. It was something built from below by people who got tired of waiting. That being scared didn't disqualify you from being brave. It just meant you knew what you were risking. Outside, the city lights glittered against dark sky. Somewhere in those lights, other women were making the same choice Claire had made, to speak, to fight, to refuse silence. Some would win, some would lose. All of them would pay a price. But they wouldn't be alone, because Claire had gone first. And every woman who came after could point to the billionaire in federal prison and say, "She did it." So can I. That was worth every sleepless night, every threatening message, every moment of terror. That was worth standing in an ICU and saying, "That bed isn't yours," to a man who thought money made him untouchable. Claire finished her tea, checked on Emma one more time, and went to bed. Tomorrow she had foundation work. The week after, testimony in another case where her experience was being cited as precedent. Next month, a speaking engagement at a medical school about workplace harassment reporting. The work didn't end when Caldwell went to prison. It just changed shape. But tonight, she slept. And in a federal prison 3 states away, Marcus Caldwell lay awake in a cell measuring 8 by 10 feet, learning that all the money in the world couldn't buy back what he'd lost when he raised his hand against someone who refused to stay down. Some debts couldn't be paid with wealth. They could only be answered for with time. And he had 45 years to think about the woman who'd cost him everything by doing nothing more than standing her ground. The woman who'd been easy to hit and impossible to break.